In the quiet residential area of Brooklyn Heights, Dorothy Clark's home stood among rows of old brick houses. The well-tended flower bed in front of her entrance announced the arrival of spring with colorful tulips. "Nathan, we're at Grandma's house," Amanda called out, and a 6-year-old boy practically jumped out of the car. "Grandma." Dorothy opened the door and gently embraced her grandson as he ran toward her. At 65, she carried herself with a dignified grace that belied her age, exuding both warmth and gentleness. Her 30-year career as the pastry chef at New York's prestigious The Wellington Hotel had given her an air of refinement and confidence. "My, haven't you grown a bit taller?" "Yes. I'm almost 6. Nathan's innocent smile warmed Dorothy's heart. It had been 10 years since she lost her husband. Her son Eric, now 37, was thriving as a sales manager at a Manhattan real estate development company. Though dedicated to his work, he never failed to check in with his mother on weekends. Her heart was a tapestry of pride in her son and a touch of loneliness. "Mom, hope you don't mind us dropping by," Amanda greeted with a perfect smile as she stepped out of the car. At 34, she taught 3rd grade at a private elementary school in Brooklyn. She was quite popular on social media as an ideal education mama with many followers. However, lately, Dorothy sensed something shadowing that smile. "Please, come in, both of you. I've just baked some lemon cookies." Once in the living room, Nathan pulled out a picture book from the bookshelf and settled into his favorite spot on the sofa. It was clear to everyone that time spent in this house was his favorite. "Nathan, wash your hands before snacks. And did you bring your allergy medicine for Peanuts today?" There was a slightly anxious tone in Amanda's voice. Her worry about her son's severe peanut allergy was endless. Sometimes, this excessive concern manifested as distrust toward Dorothy. "I've checked. There are absolutely no peanut products in this house. As a professional pastry chef, I'm very strict about that." Amanda only gave a small nod in response. As evening approached, Barbara, Amanda's mother, came to visit. A former high school home economics teacher, she had raised Amanda as a single mother after an early divorce. Behind her gentle demeanor lay something that seemed like a strong obsession. "Dorothy, baking again today?" Barbara's question carried a subtle sting. Taking pride in her own culinary skills, she seemed to constantly harbor a sense of comparison with Dorothy, the professional. "Yes, I'm starting some test bakes for Nathan's birthday next week." "Oh, is that so? But wouldn't store-bought cake be just fine? Children can hardly tell the difference." Dorothy responded to those words with just a gentle smile. She never compromised on cooking. It was an unwavering principle forged through 30 years of her career. Barbara's gaze fell on the cooking utensils arranged in the kitchen. There were also 2 cookbooks, both authored by Dorothy. Complex emotions flickered in Barbara's eyes as she stared at their covers. As dusk began to fall and Nathan prepared to leave, he called out loudly at the entrance. "Grandma, I can't wait for my birthday party next week. I definitely want to eat Grandma's cake." A week before the birthday party, Nathan's cheerful voice echoed through Dorothy's kitchen. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the window reflected off the polished stainless steel kitchen equipment, making the whole room seem to shine. "Grandma, I want it in the shape of a T-Rex." made of chocolate, with sharp teeth and scary eyes. But make it look like it's smiling too. Nathan spread his arms wide, gesturing the size of his imaginary dinosaur while bouncing excitedly. Dorothy watched her grandson's eyes and smiled tenderly. Of course. Leave it to Grandma. I'll make you a wonderful cake. When I worked at the Wellington Hotel, I made cakes like this too. Listening to their conversation, Amanda picked up her smartphone and said, I think a dinosaur cake from Party City would be fine. Besides, I'm worried about allergies. Amanda, homemade cakes are filled with memories. Trust my experience. And I'll take perfect precautions for allergies. Dorothy's words carried the confidence of her 30-year career. On the kitchen wall hung a newspaper article highlighting her achievements at the Wellington Hotel. The headline, NY's finest pastry chef, gleamed in the afternoon light. That night, Amanda posted on Instagram. Perfect birthday party preparation. Best mom life. Perfect family. The photo showed Nathan and her smiling, along with party decorations. It was like a snapshot of a perfect family moment. However, there was no mention of her mother-in-law on the post. Someone was watching that post from the other side of the screen. Barbara sighed as she liked her daughter's post. In the dark room, the bluish light from her smartphone illuminated her tired expression. Perfect family. Her whispered words dissolved into the silence. Scattered on her desk were memories of difficult days after her divorce, lesson plans for home economics, albums documenting her daughter's growth, and an old recipe notebook. 2 days before the party, Dorothy began preparations with carefully selected ingredients. Premium Italian chocolate, fresh organic eggs, and yogurt for a moist texture. Everything was chosen meticulously for the perfect cake. Professional tools were arranged neatly in the kitchen. Can I help? Dorothy turned at the sudden visitor. It was Barbara. Though wearing her usual calm expression, she seemed somehow unsettled. Thank you, but I'm fine. Professional cooking is all about proper preparation. Barbara's expression tensed momentarily at those words. She remembered her days teaching cooking in high school. Teaching students had given her confidence in her abilities. But now, a true professional stood before her. I see, professional cooking, huh? On her way home, Barbara stopped at the supermarket. In the cooking oil aisle, she picked up a small bottle. Peanut oil. After paying at the register, she carefully tucked it at the bottom of her bag. Her hands were trembling slightly. This is wrong. Though thinking this, her feet kept moving forward. Her former confidence, her bond with her daughter, and her now diminishing sense of worth, all these feelings tangled together, driving her to the edge. The day before the party. In Dorothy's kitchen, the dinosaur-shaped chocolate cake was taking form. The aroma of chocolate filled the room, creating an atmosphere like a high-end patisserie. Dorothy, I brought some homemade cookies. It was Barbara again, holding a modest paper bag. Oh, thank you. But right now, I just came to check how things are going. I won't get in your way. Just then, Dorothy's phone rang. It was from Eric. Excuse me, Barbara. I need to take this call. During the few minutes Dorothy was away from the kitchen, Barbara took out a small bottle. Her hands trembled. She tilted the bottle toward the cake batter. The clear liquid slowly seeped into the cake. The ticking of the clock seemed unnaturally loud. That night, Barbara stood before her mirror at home. This is fine. Even professional chefs make mistakes sometimes. Her reflection in the mirror looked somehow foreign. In her notebook was a note about Nathan's allergies. The morning of the party. Dorothy's house was already bustling with activity. The living room was decorated with a dinosaur theme, with green and brown balloons swaying from the ceiling. Colorful finger foods were arranged on the dining table. And in the center stood the magnificent dinosaur-shaped chocolate cake. The masterpiece, crafted with attention to every detail, truly showcased professional expertise. At 2 p.m., the first guests arrived. Nathan's friends Tommy and Jason, along with their mothers. Amanda immediately started taking photos with her phone. Nathan, look this way. Wow! A dinosaur cake. My, what a lovely party. Children's excited voices filled the room. Eric had wrapped up his work calls and stood beside his wife. Someone thought it looked like a picture of the perfect family. While everyone was smiling, only Barbara stood uneasily in a corner of the room. Her hands were slightly shaking, and she occasionally glanced at the cake. Her eyes held a mix of anxiety and determination. In her heart, regret and obsession violently clashed. No one yet suspected that this cheerful birthday party would soon take a terrifying turn. The clock struck 3 p.m. in the party room. Amidst the pleasant blend of children's laughter and parents' chatter, Dorothy quietly stood up. Now, it's time for what everyone's been waiting for, the cake. The room's atmosphere changed at those words. Children gathered excitedly around the table. Amanda immediately readied her smartphone to capture the perfect moment. Dorothy carefully carried the cake from the kitchen. The chocolate dinosaur gleamed in the warm afternoon tea light. The intricate decorations, delicate sculpting, and rich chocolate aroma, everything was perfect. Wow! Amazing! It looks like a real dinosaur. Mom, take a picture. Amid the children's cheers, no one noticed Barbara's hands trembling slightly. She watched the scene intently from the corner of the room. Nathan, this is Grandma's special cake. I hope you like it. Dorothy's voice carried 30 years of career pride and deep love for her grandson. The cake on the table stood like a work of art, perfect in every way. I love you, Grandma. Nathan's innocent smile filled the room with warmth. Eric captured the moment on his smartphone, feeling his mother's pride as a chef and her love for her son. Happy birthday to you. Everyone began singing the birthday song. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the window sparkled on the cake's surface. Barbara's expression twisted for a moment. Happy birthday. Amidst the applause, Nathan blew out the candles. Amanda carefully began cutting the cake. The first, generous slice was placed before Nathan. Time to eat. The first bite. At that moment, everyone was smiling. But this peaceful scene would transform into one of horror in just seconds. Ha! Nathan's voice sounded slightly hoarse. The next moment, his face began turning red. "Nathan, what's wrong?" Amanda's voice shook with anxiety. "Can't breathe." Nathan clawed at his throat. His movements became increasingly violent. "EpiPen. Where's the EpiPen?" Amanda's scream echoed through the room. Eric frantically began searching through bags. Children started crying, and other parents couldn't hide their distress. "Someone call an ambulance." Dorothy stood frozen in place. Her mind went blank. Years of experience refused to comprehend this situation. "Mom! How could this happen?" Amanda's cry pierced Dorothy's ears. "Did you poison him?" "Why?" At those words, the room's atmosphere froze for a moment. Barbara stood by the wall, covering her mouth with trembling hands. The sound of approaching sirens grew closer. Nathan was already starting to lose consciousness. Amanda desperately administered the EpiPen. Eric was on the phone with 911, explaining the situation. The few minutes until the ambulance arrived felt like an eternity. White paramedic uniforms, hurried footsteps, technical terms being exchanged. And Nathan's small body being lifted onto a stretcher. "Ma'am, would you like to accompany us to the hospital?" A young doctor addressed Dorothy. His eyes seemed to hold knowledge of something serious. In the hospital hallway, before the white walls permeated with the smell of disinfectant, Dorothy faced the doctor. "Mrs. Clark, actually, we're calling the police." The doctor's voice was quiet but heavy. "We detected deliberately added peanut oil in the cake." Those words completely stopped Dorothy's world. Outside the window, the evening sky was turning red. In the hospital waiting room, as night fell, a man in police uniform appeared. "Mrs. Clark, may I speak with you?" Dorothy slowly raised her head. Dark circles had formed under her eyes, and her usual dignified bearing had faded. Beside her, Eric had his arm protectively around his mother. "My mother is innocent. No one is more careful about cooking than she is." Eric's voice trembled but carried strong conviction. "I understand. But please let me clarify the situation." The police officer began speaking in a calm voice. The questioning proceeded steadily, eventually turning to the existence of security cameras. Security cameras. Amanda caught her breath. Beside her, Barbara's face momentarily turned pale. "Yes, there's a modern security system installed in your home, isn't there, Mrs. Clark?" At the detective's words, Barbara slightly trembled. The small camera installed in the kitchen. Eric had it installed out of concern for his mother's safety. "We've reviewed the footage." The detective pulled out a small tablet. It contained the decisive moment. The kitchen the day before the party. Dorothy stepping out to take a phone call. And then Barbara taking out a small bottle and pouring something into the cake. "Mrs. Barbara." The detective's voice quietly echoed. "Could you explain this?" The room's atmosphere instantly froze. Amanda stared at her mother. Her eyes swirled with disbelief and denial. Barbara's voice trembled. Emotions long harbored burst forth like a broken dam. "Dorothy is perfect. always perfect. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Professional chef, successful wife, ideal grandmother. I had nothing. Divorced, raising a daughter alone. And then Nathan says, I like my other grandma better. The confession continued like a painful confession. Days of not being able to bear the comparison with a professional, nights spent looking at seemingly perfect family photos on social media. And the fear of losing even her grandson's affection. Barbara. Amanda's voice grew hoarse. Why, this method? I wanted to ruin Dorothy's reputation. But I never thought Nathan would, with that amount. Her words trailed off. At that moment, a doctor appeared in the waiting room. Family members, Nathan's condition has stabilized. A sigh of relief escaped. Thanks to prompt treatment, we avoided a serious situation. Eric exhaled deeply. Amanda collapsed into a sitting position. Mom. Amanda's voice quietly echoed. Why was I so obsessed with social media? A perfect family doesn't. Her smartphone slipped from her hand. The screen showed a photo she had planned to post hours ago. Mrs. Clark. The detective turned back to Dorothy. I apologize for having suspected you. Dorothy quietly shook her head. Let's stop blaming anyone now. Her voice carried deep sadness, yet also gentleness. We are family, after all. Outside the window, stars began twinkling in the night sky. It was a quiet evening after a long storm. The signs of autumn were beginning to drift through Brooklyn. In Dorothy's garden, colorful dahlias swayed in the wind. Grandma, can I mix this batter more? Nathan's energetic voice rang out from the kitchen. 3 months had passed since the incident. He had fully recovered and regained his usual smile. Perhaps the family bonds had even grown stronger than before. Yes, but slowly. Dorothy smiled gently. Beside her, Amanda watched her son lovingly. Mom, is this consistency right? Dorothy's eyes softened at Amanda's words. Cooking together had become their new daily routine. Perfect, Amanda. You have a talent for cooking too. On the living room table lay a letter. It was from Barbara, who was in a rehabilitation facility. To my beloved family. Through counseling, I'm confronting the twisted obsessions within me. I sought perfection so much that I lost sight of what was truly important. I don't expect forgiveness. But please let me sincerely apologize for that day. At the facility, she had begun leading a culinary therapy program, supporting others with similar struggles. Healing wounded hearts through cooking. Ironically, this might have been what she had truly been seeking all along. Mom, what flavor is today's cake? To Nathan's question, Amanda answered softly. Vanilla. It's simple, but because we made it together, it will have a special taste. Eric came home early from work. Lately, he had been prioritizing family time. It smells wonderful. Dad, I mixed it myself. Family smiles filled the kitchen. Dorothy's eyes fell on an old album on the table. Opening it, she found a photo from 30 years ago at the Wellington Hotel. Her younger self proudly holding a cake. Everyone, look at this. The family gathered around. You know, I used to be too focused on perfection. But now I understand. What's important is putting love into it. That's all that matters. Amanda picked up her smartphone. But this time, it wasn't to take photos for posting. Let's take a family picture. The whole family gathered close around the simple vanilla cake. Say cheese. The flash went off, capturing that moment for eternity. Maybe it wasn't perfect. But there were genuine smiles, filled with real love. Outside the window, the evening sky was turning crimson. The cake on the table wasn't particularly fancy. But it contained a new family story, woven by the hands of 3 generations of women. Come now, let's all enjoy it together. Dorothy's voice rang out gently. At the facility, Barbara was probably looking up at the same sky. The day of forgiveness would surely come. Everyone understood that it would take time. Outside, the autumn breeze gently swayed the dahlias in the garden.